it's your first time here, or first time to church in a long time, you've never been to the Heart before, or you haven't filled out one of these should be on the seat backs on some of the seats in front of you. It's called our Connect card. Now, if you fill out this Connect card and bring it to the VIP area up front, we'll get you some a free bag with some stuff, with some information, and you can take that with you. And we want to be able to give that to you, but we want more than that. And why we have you fill this out in the first place is for us to be able to connect with you throughout the week, to invite you into community. Because we know if it's your first time at church, or maybe you're looking for a church, or whatever it happens to be, we know that it's difficult to just put yourself into a community. Just say, okay, here I am. Who's going to do something for me? We know that can be awkward. It can be a little difficult. So with this Connect card, what we want to be able to do is invite you into our community, invite you into our mess, and you can be a part of what God is doing here at the Heart. So I want to encourage you to fill this out if you haven't before, or if it's your second time here at the Heart. And that really is kind of the heart of what we hope to do here in this church, in this community, is to not just invite you into our mess, not to just let you know that your mess is perfectly fine, it's perfectly wonderful. I think we're under a lot of pressure at times to hurry along in our faith, to hurry along and be who you're supposed to be. Maybe you're under pressure from your parents, or maybe other religious people in your life, or maybe you're just under pressure from yourself to hurry up and get to some spiritual level where you need to just be this spiritually perfect person. And I want to let you know, just at least for the next couple of minutes, to let yourself be exactly where you are on your journey of faith, wherever that happens to be. Whether you're at zero and you're not sure about God, you're not sure where your faith is. Maybe you used to have faith and you've lost it. Some things have happened and it's kind of caused you to question if God is real. Or maybe he's real, but is he good because of some of the things that have happened in your life? And I think a lot of times we're afraid to bring those doubts, right? We're afraid to say that we might question God, or question if God is listening. And I think it's those questions, it's those doubts that we can bring, and when we bring them here together along with each other, then we can start to see that we're not the only ones that are doubting, we're not the only ones that have these questions, and we can be on this journey together. And that is the power of this community. The power of this community to be there for each other in this mess during those times. So I want to let you know just for the next couple of minutes that it's safe to be who you are, where you are on your journey of faith. Now, we are right in the middle of our message series that has been going on for a couple of weeks now, called Bring Someone. And it's been based around this simple idea, this simple concept of bringing people along with us in our life. If you're going to go to the movies, bring someone with you. You're going to go get coffee, bring someone with you. You're going to go party, you're going to go hiking, you're going to go to the pool, you're going to go take a walk, bring someone with you. And it's bringing someone with you that builds and fosters and creates community around us. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at the power of that. What can happen if we bring people with us? Last week, we looked at a story of Moses. Moses, he wasn't sure he could complete the task that God had for him. He was nervous. He thought that God had the wrong guy. So he said no, and God said, well, you're going to bring someone with you, your brother Aaron. And through Aaron going with Moses, Aaron's family changed. People's lives are affected when we bring them with us. We can help see their perspective change. We can help see our perspective change. But if bringing someone along with us, maybe it can change them, maybe it can grow them, and we're showing them our life, or maybe we're giving them advice, or whatever it is, we're bringing them with us. But what about us changes? Do we change? Do we grow? Are we affected? Are we impacted when we bring someone along with us? That's what I want to look at today. We're going to look at a story in just a few moments in the book of Daniel, and what your life can look like if you bring people along with you. Specifically your faith, the hope that you have for your family, for your kids, for your job. I met my wife. She's gone. Oh, well, it was a good run. Okay, here she is. I met my wife I want to tell you a story. I met my wife about 13 years ago, a little over 13 years ago. And, sparks flew, the whole thing. You've seen movies. It was just love at first sight, everything else. And she just couldn't keep her eyes off of me. She was chasing me down the whole time. Finally, I gave in. No, that was a joke. And so we got married, and we were married for a couple of months, and I don't know if anybody is newlyweds, but people were like, you guys have been married for 6 months, and you don't own a house yet? You need to hurry up and do that. We're like, you're right. We should own a house. We should go out and buy one. Are we ready for it? No, but we're going to go do it. Who wants to be in debt? Raise your hand. And then these people are like, hey. So we go buy a house. We bought a house here in San Marcos. And we'd been married for about, I don't know, I guess a year. And I had gone to Texas State, or I had gone to Southwest Texas State University. And then they shortened it up. And so I had gone there, and I had taken a break. I was like, I stopped. I said, I'm going to take a semester off. It's no problem. And then a semester turned into 2 semesters. It's no problem. I'm working right. I'm building my career. It's no problem. 3 semesters, 4, 2 years, 3 years, 4.5 years, 5 years. Taking a break for 5 years. You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years. They're called doctors. And so I only had a few hours left to go, a few classes to take. But it had been so long, I felt like it's not worth going back. I'm going to feel silly, you know. I'm in my mid-20s. I know it doesn't seem so silly now that I say it out loud. But I felt silly then. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. My wife, she would encourage me. She would encourage, you can do this. It'll be fine. And I wasn't necessarily scared to take the classes, but I just, I was working full time, and we were helping out at a church that we were going to, and I was helping lead the youth group. That was like a part-time job, and then I was going to, go back up to school, and that meant that she would have to go pick up Corbin and all this kinds of stuff, so a lot of moving pieces. But she encouraged me. She said, it's going to work. It can work. We'll make it work. We'll do this together. And I don't know what you have going on in your life. I don't know if you have someone in your life that encourages you, that is there for you. At the beginning of the year, we did a series called Battle Ready, where we talked about looking at your year, looking at your life. What are the things that you're going to be facing that could be potential problems, potential issues? And so when I ask you that today, what is going on in your life, in your marriage, with your kids? Maybe you're facing an addiction, or maybe you're dealing with anxiety or depression or anger. And it's when we deal with those things that's when we realize how alone we are, or that's when we realize the kind of friends we have. And that's the simple question I want to be asking you throughout this series is, are you bringing someone with you? Who are you bringing with you? Who do you have around you that can encourage you? That can remind you of the faith that you maybe once had, or can remind you of the faith that you do have? Who do you have in your life? Who are you bringing with you into your mess, into these situations? And it's tough. It's not easy. It's not easy, especially when it comes to the things that we try to hide from everyone. Right? The mess is what we don't want to show everyone. So it's counterintuitive for me to say you need to be inviting people into your mess. No, Dom. The mess is what I'm trying to hide. I'm going to show everybody else all the good things that are going on in my life, right? I'm going to show everybody else all the highlights on Instagram and the snaps and Facebook. That's what I want people to see, not the mess. Nobody pops onto Twitter and say, it's so depressed right now. Nobody puts up a picture on Instagram of them crying at a funeral, right? We don't put the bad times up for people to see. But the problem is that if we keep those things to ourselves, if we try to do those things alone, handle those things alone, then we're missing out on the power of bringing someone with us. And what happens if while you are facing these things, your faith starts to falter? What happens if while you're facing these things, the hope that you had that you could make it, the hope that you have of a time to come, the hope that you have for your marriage, the hope that you have for your kids, the hope that you have for your career, what happens in those times if your hope starts to go away, your hope starts to leave, and you haven't brought anybody with you? What happens when depression grips you, when anxiety grips you, and you don't know what to do if you haven't brought anybody along with you? What happens? So I want to look at a story today of 3 young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Maybe you've heard the story before. I'm going to read it for you. We're going to look at a few bits of it and how bringing someone with you can grow your faith. can give you hope, can activate your hope in your life. So we're going to be in Daniel chapter 3. The name of the story here in the Message Bible is called Four Men in the Furnace. Talk about a spoiler alert. It's like watching Lord of the Rings, and the third one's called Return of the King. It's the biggest spoiler in the world. The king comes back. All right, so I'm just gonna read you this story, and then we're gonna go back and look at a couple things. King Nebuchadnezzar built a gold statue 90 feet high and 9 feet thick. He set it up on the Dura Plain in the province of Babylon. He then ordered all the important leaders in the province, everybody who was anybody, to the dedication ceremony of the statue. They all came for the dedication, all the important people, and took their places before the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had erected. A herald then proclaimed in a loud voice, "Attention everyone, every race, color, creed. Listen. When you hear the band strike up, all the trumpets and trombones, the tubas and the baritones, the drums and the cymbals, fall to your knees and worship the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Anyone who does not kneel and worship shall be thrown immediately into a roaring furnace." The band started to play, a huge band equipped with all the musical instruments of Babylon, and everyone, every race, color, and creed, fell to their knees and worshiped the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Just then, some Babylonian fortune tellers stepped up and accused the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Long live the king. You gave strict orders, O king." And with that, when the big band started playing, everyone had to fall to their knees and worship the gold statue, and whoever did not go to their knees and worship it had to be pitched into the roaring furnace. Well, there are some Jews here, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have placed in high positions in the province of Babylon. Those men are ignoring you, O king. They don't respect your gods, and they won't worship the gold statue that you set up. Furious, King Nebuchadnezzar ordered the boys to be brought in, and when the men were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar asked, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you don't respect my gods and refuse to worship the gold statue I have set up? I'll give you a second chance, but from now on, when the big band strikes, you must go to your knees and worship the statue I have made. If you don't worship it, you'll be pitched into the roaring furnace. No questions asked. Who is the God who can rescue you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, "Your threat means nothing to us. If you throw us in the fire, the God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else you might cook up, O king, but even if he doesn't, it wouldn't make a bit of difference. We still wouldn't serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up." Nebuchadnezzar, his face purple with anger, cut off Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he ordered the furnace fired up 7 times hotter than usual. He ordered some strong men from the army to tie them up, hands and feet, throw them into the roaring furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, bound hand and foot, fully dressed from head to toe, were pitched into the roaring fire. Because the king was in such a hurry and the furnace was so hot, flames from the furnace killed the men who were carrying the 3 boys, while the fire raged around Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Suddenly, King Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in alarm and said, "Hey, didn't we throw 3 men bound hand and foot into the fire?" "That's right," they said. "But look," said the king, "I see 4 men walking around freely in the fire, completely unharmed. And the 4th man looks like the son of the gods." Nebuchadnezzar went to the door of the roaring furnace and called in, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the high God, come out here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked out of the fire. All the important people, the government leaders, and the king's counselors gathered around to examine them and discovered that the fire hadn't so much as touched the 3 men, not a hair singed, not a scorch mark on their clothes, not even the smell of fire on them. Nebuchadnezzar said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel and rescued his servants who trusted in him. They ignored the king's orders and laid their bodies on the line rather than serve or worship any god but their own. Therefore, I issue this decree: anyone, anywhere, of any race, color, or creed who says anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be ripped to pieces, limb from limb, and their houses torn down. There has never been a God who can pull off a rescue like this." It got a little dark there at the end. It took a dark turn, but I think you get where he was going. His intentions were good. So you got these three young men who were facing something. They were facing a problem, and maybe you don't have a roaring furnace in front of you. Maybe when you leave here, you're not worried about being thrown into a literal fire this week. But I want you to think about, like I said earlier, I want you to think about something that is happening in your life, some situation that might be on the horizon, something that you are going to have to face. So I want to look at a couple of pieces of this story. I want to look at verses 16 through 18. This is right after the threat from the wild king. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they answered the king's threat. You said, your threat means nothing to us. If you throw us in the fire, the God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else you might cook up. But even if he doesn't, it wouldn't make a difference. We're still not going to serve your gods, worship your gold statue. But here's what I want to focus on, that first part. Because here come these three young men. And the king, he has this threat. He's already told the whole land that if anybody doesn't obey what I'm saying, they're going to go into the roaring furnace. He's like, guys, I'm giving you a second chance here. Who answers the king? Is it Shadrach? Is it Meshach? Or is it Abednego? I think it's so interesting that it says all three of them answered the king. Anything that they did. I don't know if you noticed how many times it's never one of their names on its own. It's all three of their names every time throughout this story. It's all three. Now, I'm sure they weren't answering in unison or anything like that. But they were there together. They were standing together. I don't know about your group of friends, but with my friends, we share each other's strengths, right? Someone is usually braver than the other. I wonder if it was Abednego, Maybe he was a little bit braver. Maybe it was Shadrach. Shadrach might have been a little bit braver than everybody else. Shadrach comes and is like, hey, guys, we can't do this. And Meshach and Abednego are like, I don't know, man. I don't want to go into the furnace. I mean, I see what you're saying. Maybe we just bow, make everybody think we're worshiping the statue, but we really worship God. What do you think? Maybe it was Shadrach's strength, Shadrach's courage. He says we have to stand together. If we do this together, we'll be there for each other. And I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm just trying to think through. These three young men. They were people just like you and I. Someone's a little bit braver. You ever been around someone's a little bit braver, and you're like, okay, well, if they do it, I'll do it. If they think it's fine, I'll do it. I was floating on the river one time in New Braunfels, and this is very unsafe. Don't recommend it. All the disclaimers you need for this story. Okay, you ready? And a friend of mine, he gets out and he jumps off a bridge into the river. Splash, so much fun. I was like, oh, okay. I can build up the courage for that. Still didn't do it. But I was inspired by his courage. You ever been inspired by someone's courage, inspired by something somebody did? I think that's maybe what happened with these three young men. Inspiring each other, borrowing each other's faith. We can borrow the faith of the people around us, but we can only borrow the faith of the people around us if we are bringing people with us into our life. How else could you borrow faith? How else could you borrow hope? If it's just you. If you're keeping your mess behind you, you're keeping all your depression, your anxiety, your anger, the marriage that's on the brink of divorce, your addictions, you're keeping all of that behind you safely so nobody can see it. Because you want everybody to think that you're okay. You want everybody to think that you're happy. You want everybody to think that everything is going fine. That seems like a good idea until something comes your way. It seems like a good idea until your faith starts to falter a little bit. And if you have no one around, then there's no one's faith that you can borrow to get you through what you need to get through. I've heard before, and I'm sure you've heard this, that God won't give you anything that you can't handle. Maybe you've heard that. God won't give you anything more than you can handle. I don't know. I don't know if I agree. If God didn't give you anything that you couldn't handle, then you wouldn't need anybody around you. You wouldn't need to bring people with you. Maybe some of the things that we face in life can be faced if we have people around us. If we lose hope, I'm not trying to speak this over you. I'm not trying to speak over you that you're going to lose hope soon or that your faith is going to falter soon. But I can tell you from my personal experience, I have been in situations where I was face to face with depression, I was face to face with anxiety, face to face with anger, face to face with addiction, where I was face to face with, I could see my faith slipping away. I could see hope in something slipping away. And if I had no one around me, if I had no one I was bringing along, it would start to crush me. There was a few times in my life where I wasn't bringing people along with me, and those things would crush my soul. They would crush who I was. But when I bring people with me, it doesn't make them easier. It doesn't make the situation different. It doesn't make my emotions different. But when I lose hope, I can borrow hope from the people around me. When I lose faith, I can borrow faith from the people around me. When you bring someone with you, I wrote this down. I want you to see this. Bringing someone with you, it gives you the faith to borrow when yours is low. Who are you bringing with you? Who are you bringing with you? If you need to borrow faith, who are you bringing with you to borrow faith? Who are you bringing with you that can activate the hope in you by showing you theirs, by showing you their hope? When my wife was encouraging me to go back and finish school, it's so funny now because if 38-year-old Dom was talking to 26-year-old Dom, he would have said, just quit school. You don't need it. When I meet students who are going to Texas State, I'm like, just quit school. What do you need it for? I think my parents want me to go to school. I don't know if they do. I don't know how many arguments I've started. Just quit school. You don't need it. But don't tell your parents I said that. You know what I mean? That's your conversation to have. Now, when Amber was encouraging me to go back to school, it wasn't like, I wasn't worried about the classes. I mean, I had already finished, it was a psychology degree. I had already finished all my psychology stuff. It was like, Spanish 2 that I hadn't taken. You know what I mean? Like, the class, I was in, a class with a bunch of freshmen. Wasn't worried about that, but I felt like it's too far gone. It's going to be weird. I have too much going on. I'm busy. But she kept encouraging me the whole time while I was in school. Keep going. You're almost done. Keep going. You're almost done. So finally, I finished, graduated. I am sorry to say, though, I didn't know it was a thing to jump in the river after you graduated, so I didn't get to do that. But later on, my sister-in-law, she graduated from the nursing program at Texas State, so we both jumped in together for that. So that was cool to be able to have that. But bringing someone along with me, bringing my wife, bringing my friends, it's not just about school. It's not just about that. It's so many things in our life that we have faced together. And we don't face it together just because we're husband and wife. Because you can be husband and wife with somebody, you can be in a relationship with somebody, and you're still not bringing them along with you because you're not telling them the real you. You're not sharing your real feelings. You're not sharing your real emotions. That's what it means to bring someone along with you. I'm not talking about just marrying somebody. I'm not talking about just being in the same car with somebody. I'm talking about inviting somebody into your heart. Inviting somebody to see your soul, to see who you are. That's not easy. But that's what's happened with my wife and I is we're able to be there for each other. And we faced infertility together. And when her faith would falter, I let her borrow mine, and when I would lose hope, I could borrow hers. And our faith has only grown. Our faith has only grown from the things that we've been through, and that's what happens when you bring someone with you, is your faith can grow. I bet these 3 young men who were facing this roaring furnace, they're facing this fire. Can you imagine how strong their faith was? Not because they were saved from the furnace. Their faith was already there. Didn't you hear it in what they said? Didn't you hear it in how they were talking to the king? Our God is going to save us. What if God didn't save them and then they look silly? And the God of Israel looked silly. They weren't worried about that. Their faith wasn't if God was going to save them or not. Their faith was, even if God doesn't do anything, I'm still believing, I'm still trusting. That's what happens when you bring people with you. You get faith, and you have this combined faith, and the faith is stacked on, and everybody has hope. You believe how much hope we have? That's what happens if you can bring someone with you. Jesus did the same thing. Jesus brought people along with him. Jesus was inviting these men and women into his life, into what he was doing, into who he was, into the hope that he had for humanity. When we bring people with us, our faith grows because we're able to see the faith that people have when we don't. We're able to see the hope that people have around us when we don't have hope, when we have lost the ability to hope. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and bow your heads. I want to give you a challenge this morning. Every eye closed, every head bowed. I'm going to ask you something. Who are you bringing with you? Who are you bringing with you in your life? If it's no one, if you're not bringing anybody along with you, then here's what's going to happen when something comes up this week, this month, this year that you have to face, and you face it alone. It's going to be so difficult. I'm not saying you won't get through it. I'm saying you don't need to get through it alone. Who are you bringing with you? So here's the challenge. I want you to bring someone with you. I want you to reach out to someone this week. Whose faith can you borrow? Whose hope can you borrow? Now, I know you're scared. I know you'll hold back because you don't want people to see your mess. I know you're going to hold back because you don't want people to know that you're not okay. But I promise you, when you bring someone with you, your faith grows. So I want you to make a decision right now. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand in a moment. And if you raise your hand, here's what that raised hand is going to mean. It means that this week you are going to reach out to someone in your life and bring them with you. Show them your mess. Someone who you can borrow their faith, borrow their hope for what you are facing in life. If you're ready to do that, on the count of 3, I want you to raise your hand. You're going to reach out to someone. You're going to bring someone with you. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Put your hand up and leave it there. You're not making this commitment to me. You're making this commitment to yourself. Okay, put your hands down. We're going to pray. God, we are so grateful for who you are, for what you have done. We're grateful for the hope that you give, the love that you have shared in your Son, Jesus. We thank you that we have a Savior, that Jesus showed us what it meant to be in community, that Jesus showed us what it meant to bring people along with us. God, I pray that when our faith is low, when our hope is low, that we be able to borrow the faith and hope of the people around us, that you are the source of all faith, of all hope, of all love, of all mercy, of all grace. We thank you, God, for the people that you put in our life, for the community that you have put around us. I pray that we would have the boldness, we would have the strength, we would have the bravery to reach out. We love you, God, and we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.